Hey, what is up guys? My name is Andy. Welcome to the show. So today we have a different topic. Today we're gonna compare watches, and I'm gonna compare the Datejust from my dad and my Explorer and my OP36. And why am I doing this? Is for you guys to see the differences between those watches. They actually wear different. I thought that the wearing experience was going to be the same, and apparently it's not. So why should you choose the Datejust over the OP over the Explorer? Not just because of the price differences, but the looks and the feel of the watch. And actually there's some things that I discovered that sets apart the Explorer, the Datejust, and the OP, and it's not that obvious. So let's begin. I have on my wrist the Explorer one, and love this watch, and let's just talk about this watch. So you could say actually that the watches are simply the same watches. Rolex kind of does this with the same bracelet and the same case and the same bezels, but there's sometimes that the OP36 and the Datejust, they kind of resemble themselves with a little touches that they're different. To talk about the Datejust. Now the Datejust is an incredible everyday watch if you actually like a date. This is the main thing that you would actually think about when you're purchasing a watch from Rolex. And if you don't want to spend more than $9,000, this is a very nice watch, and this is why I'm talking about this three. So fun fact, the Oyster Perpetual is actually cheaper than an Aquaterra, and that brings me a smile, but you can buy the Aquaterra right now. The OPs, you have to search for them and actually talk to the AD and all of these three watches. Okay, so main differences from the Oyster Perpetual and the Datejust is that it has a date, so the movement is different. You have polished center links, and you have a polished case. There are three main differences here. The main ones are the polished parts of the watch, the date cyclops, and the movement, which is obviously a different movement because it has a date on it. Now, one is a little bit dressier than the other one. One is going to attract more scratches. One, maybe it's just for special occasions for you, or maybe you can use it for every single day. If I am looking for just one watch and I do love a date, I would go with the Datejust, but with the Jubilee, or maybe in this configuration. This is the better way for me. I don't like the 41, it's just too big, too blingy, and I don't like the flat bezel on this watch, on that watch. Now, is it worth the maybe $1,000 more? I think it's a little bit more for the Datejust. For me, my personal taste is not worth it, but if you really want a date, it is worth the $1,000 more. They usually can go a little bit more on the gray market. The Datejusts, especially with the white gold fluted bezel on this, because it's white gold, it's a little bit expensive, and the watches can actually go a little bit more in price. People think that that's the way to have a Rolex Datejust with the Jubilee and the fluted bezel. For me, I like the understated part of having a Datejust just with an Oyster bracelet and with a smooth bezel, actually the same as the OP36. And I do really like more this bezel than the 41. It's just too big. It reflects a lot more light. It looks clunky. I don't know how to explain it, but the 41 millimeters on the Datejust, it's just weird. And let's just take a look at the OP and the Datejust together for you to see what I'm talking about, because they're similar everywhere. Just the polished parts and maybe the sapphire, the date, and the movement, they're different. I do have one hidden difference between these two, which I want to talk about because nobody talks about this specific thing, and it just makes the difference for me. Now, there's no differences between the watches on the measurements. They are exactly the same dial, exactly the same case, exactly the same crown, exactly the same bracelet measurements everywhere. There's nothing that changes from these watches at all. Key differences from the Rolex Explorer, as you know, and everybody complained that this watch has 19mm log width and goes down to 14. rather than the Datejust goes from 20 to 16. But when you see them side by side, actually you can see the tapering on the Explorer a lot more aggressive than the Datejust or the OP36. Sometimes actually you can put on the watch and you cannot feel the taperness on the watch until you see the under part of the watch. You then see the tapered bracelet. But with the Explorer, you can see it a lot. You can see it very aggressive. And I love that. I do love that the Explorer has this very aggressive taper and it goes to a very small clasp. This just gives it a little bit more vintage vibe, which I do like that this one, the Datejust and the OP36, I do love that both of these watches don't do that because they are kind of a little bit more modern than the Explorer. It depends on what you want. If you want a 41, they just go for that and just don't try to, you know, compare those like the 36 or Datejust and the 36 OP and the 41 OP and the 41. They just go with that. If your mind is fixed over there, go with it. I personally don't like it. It's just too big, too blingy, too showy. I'm not like that. I do really like my Rolex to be a little bit more understated, which the OP does, with a different dial, because the dial, this green dial, it does grab some attention. Now the Datejust in this configuration is more toned down and it doesn't blink too much because it doesn't have a Jubilee. The Jubilee is super blingy and the fluted bezel also. And I love that. And I love that this could actually work with t-shirt and jeans and with a very nice outfit and in a wedding and a, you know, in a meeting, because it's not an expensive watch. It's just a watch that you treated, it says that you treated yourself because you hit a milestone and you are not trying to really reach this wealthy lifestyle. Let's face it, there's many people that buy Rolexes just because of the money and the recognizability. This is the way to go for me on a Datejust. That's why I love it. I really think that you should get a very understated Datejust. That's me. You can go with however you want. And if you want a blingy watch and you want people to notice the watch, I will go with the fluted bezel, but still 36 millimeters. That is the gentleman's measurements that you should wear on a watch, especially on that type. And I think that it goes better with everything. I love that the Datejust still has these somber styles. The dials really changed a lot. I love that about the Datejust. And yes, the OP36 had them before, but now you have lacquer dials. Now, one of the things that I do really want to see in person is the OP36 in black. Why? Because that black is the same black as the Explorer, and actually could be an alternative if you don't have the $1,000 extra or almost $2,000 extra for the Rolex Explorer. And if you don't care for the 369, maybe you could go for the OP36. One thing that you have to have in mind is that the OP36 kinda sometimes looks bigger on the opening of the dial, and it kind of looks bigger than the Datejust. This is one of the other things that I want to talk about to you guys on these two watches, especially in those two watches because they have the same sizes. Now, the Datejust really sometimes looks so much more smaller than the OP36 just because of one thing, and that is that it has the polished case. Now, the polished case sometimes could add or subtract light, especially if you are in a darker environment and with darker tones around. But sometimes it can actually see, you can actually see some kind of shadows or a blackened side of the Datejust because it just is getting different lighting from the other side, and if it doesn't have that much more lighting than the other side, it kind of looks black, and that makes the watch a little bit smaller. It can shrink in size just because of the light. And if you don't believe me, you have to try it yourself and try it and see it for yourself. I didn't know this until I put them side by side. The Oyster Perpetual, it just glows everywhere, so that's why it doesn't have that effect on this watch. So it actually looks whiter because of the light. It just shines throughout evenly. it's the same color, and that's why you can see more the case, the silhouette of the case. And with the Datejust, you can see sometimes the silhouette of the case kind of blends with the light and kind of goes away, and you can actually sometimes feel that the watch is smaller just because of that. All the things that you have to consider is that Rolex Datejust has Rolex Oyster Perpetual and Datejust on the 12 o'clock side, and the OP36 just has Rolex and Oyster Perpetual. The lettering on these two are, the Oyster Perpetual is smaller and the Datejust is bigger. I don't know why, don't ask me, but they are smaller. The Oyster Perpetual, you can see exactly the differences. The Oyster Perpetual on the Rolex Oyster Perpetual is smaller, and the Oyster Perpetual on the Rolex Datejust, it is bigger. They use bigger font, and then the Datejust is bigger, not that bold, but it's bigger than the Rolex naming. So that gives you, this watch is more crowded on the dial, so the dials may seem smaller than the Oyster Perpetual, because when you don't have that third text on the 12 side of the 12 o'clock side of the watch and of the dial, you can see more blank space, and that gives you a sensation that the dial is a bit bigger than the Datejust. Lume are exactly the same as the Rolex Explorer, and these two, it's just priced incredibly well. I do love how the Datejust looks, at night. And I don't mind the Cyclops and then that missing lume plot, because it just gives you a sense of direction on the dial, and that looks amazing. I do like that. In terms of wearability, I gotta say they have different feelings, but they wear the same. They feel the same weight, same everything, same comfortability. Excellent watches to wear, but you can actually, it seems that the Datejust brings more play because of the play of the dial, sunburst dial, the play on the case, polished case, and a polished center links. The experience about that is just different, whilst the OP is just more bland. It's just a flat experience. If you had a OP36 with the sunburst dial, that's another story. It just changes drastically throughout the light. But I do like how the green here just sometimes turns black and then a very bright green depending on the light, and I love that. If you want a everydayer that can do anything and don't even think about taking out the watch of your wrist and just having one watch, I would go with the Explorer, because the Explorer is just so much more chameleon than this two. The Oyster Perpetual for me, especially in this color, can be just not an everyday, or can be just another thing that I have to think about with this green color. But if you have the black color, I think that you have to go for it, because I think that that's an incredible one watch collection. If you want to save $1,000, go with the Oyster Perpetual in black. I think that would be incredible. It's a perfect contender for the Explorer. But if you do like the 369, go with Explorer. The Datejust, I cannot say the same thing about a everyday wearability, because if you don't like to scratch your watches, especially with these polished center links, I would advise not to buy this watch if you will go crazy scratching the watch. So maybe that could not be a everydayer. If you do like the blinginess and you don't care about the scratches and you can just buff it up, go with the Datejust. And if you need the date, go with the Datejust, but I would advise the 36 millimeters, the smooth bezel, and the Oyster bracelet. For me, that's the way to go if you're going to have just one watch. One last thing that I forgot to mention is that the Oyster Perpetual 36 has very different indices. And I'm not talking about the 2 baton indices at 369. I'm talking about all the indices. Now, this indices has a different finishing on the metal part, and it kind of has a chamfered edge throughout the whole indice. And if you look at the, for example, my Explorer and the Datejust, it kind of has a plain without finishing indice. And this makes the Oyster Perpetual a little bit different. And note that this is just on the 36 millimeters. I haven't seen this on the 41. But this is something that I really like about the Oyster Perpetual 36 and gives it something else to see on this dial and makes it very, very interesting. And I think that nobody talks about this. So this is one of the hidden features that the OP36 has. So that's been it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you like this type of videos. I know that they're kind of popular when I do these comparisons between Rolexes and sizes of watches and colors. So leave a comment down below if you like this type of videos. Which watches should I compare next? And subscribe to my channel. This analytics that I have right here in front of me on my cell phone tell me that 90% of you guys that are watching this video are not subscribed. So if you don't want to, don't worry. Thank you for watching anyways, but you can actually help if you subscribe. It's free and it's super easy to do. Just one click and that's it. You don't have to click the bell if you don't want to receive the notification. So thank you guys for watching. And remember, I am Andy and I'll be here spending time watching time.